It was Christmas Eve, and a cold but dry breeze swept through our small town. As usual, the streets looked empty, with only one shop open. Because of Christmas, most people were at home celebrating the holiday. Not to mention, our town held on to some old, seemingly pointless traditions, like avoiding going out on Christmas Day, believing it brought bad luck. So, why was I out on the streets? Well, I was doing a quick run to the shop to grab some things for Mom. And let's face it, my mom isn't the best at taking care of me, I guess. Above the shop, a big Santa Claus banner hung, clearly aiming to attract kids inside. I chuckled to myself. I never bought into this Christmas nonsense, not even when I was a kid. Inside the shop, I quickly snagged the items on the list. Stepping back onto the streets, the chill cut through, and snowflakes danced down. The sky was dark, and the streets were empty. Just me, braving the cold solitude.
Austin.
Suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. It was more of a whisper than a shout. Confused, I looked around to see who was calling me. The street was shrouded in darkness, and under the dim street lamps, I could see no one nearby or in the distance. Maybe it was just the cold breeze, who knows. I started walking back to my house. It was freezing, definitely colder than usual. It felt kind of strange. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me, heavy ones, very close. Okay, now I'm getting creeped out. But I took a long breath, stopped, and turned back. There stood a giant, hefty man, dressed in a red suit similar to Santa's, towering over me. He had a large bag hanging on his shoulders and back, just like Santa's gift bag. Without saying a word, he stood there motionless, staring down at me. I tried to look at his face, attempting to recognize him under the dim light from the spotlights. A cold shudder ran through my body as I realized the man didn't have eyes, only dark black eye holes. Having seen enough horror shows, I knew better than to investigate. I turned back and sprinted towards my house, hoping the strange man wouldn't follow me. I ran so fast that within a few minutes I found myself in front of my house. That's when I realized I had dropped my grocery bag back there. Well, it's okay. I wouldn't go back for it even if it had a brand new PlayStation 2 inside. I rushed into the house, sweat dripping down my face. I tried telling my mom what happened, but she didn't listen or believe me. I mean, a dark Santa without eyes? Come on, I'm going to college next year. I can't act like a baby. I don't even believe in Santa. I'm not sure if I actually saw something or if I was just seeing illusions in the middle of the streets. My house was never a cheerful, happy place. My dad passed away when I was a kid, and my mom struggled with drinking problems. My grandma also lives with us, but she isn't very active, both physically and mentally. During the Christmas dinner, we all ate in silence, and I tried to tell them again about what I saw. I mean, there could be a killer out there, who knows? As usual, Mom remained silent, but I noticed my grandma's face turning pale, as if she had seen a ghost. Is something going on here? After dinner, I found Grandma sitting in the living room. I approached her and asked about what I had seen. She asked me to sit down next to her and began recounting an old story from half a decade ago when she was young, at my age. 50 years ago, during the Christmas week, one of her friends named Brandon saw a giant man wearing a similar red suit like Santa. Brandon mentioned that the giant man appeared, or maybe jumped, onto the street in front of his truck seemingly out of nowhere. There was no one else in the streets, so there were no witnesses. Later, he had shared that the dark Santa was coming to get him because he never believed in Christmas miracles and Santa. He was terrified to be alone. 3 days later, he was found on the side of the forest, dead, with his eyes peeled off. In the following week, 3 more young boys were found dead in the same gruesome manner throughout the town, missing their eyes. The police reported that 2 of them were caught on the street, while 1 was kidnapped from his house, even with the parents present, and then carried to the forest using a large bag. The parents mentioned that they didn't hear a single step or sound, which is really strange. Despite the parents' accounts and thorough investigations, the police couldn't find the killer. Over time, it became a Christmas myth that old people used to tell. If you don't believe in Santa, he will get you on Christmas Day. After sharing her horror story, she looked at me with a solemn expression and insisted that I must believe in Santa, or he would come to get me. Honestly, I was terrified by her tale, but I tried to act tough, brushing it off as some kind of old murder case that happened in 1952. Who knows? I went to my room, jumped onto the bed, and plugged in my earphones. I tried to understand and make sense of what happened earlier on the street in Grandma's story. Was there a connection between these two incidents? Could what I saw be a killer who murdered those 3 boys 50 years ago? Is it a human, some kind of entity? Or just a weirdo trying to replicate the events of 1952? And how does it know my name is Austin? Most importantly, how does it know that I didn't believe in Santa at all? Suddenly, a chill ran down my spine, and as I got up, I noticed the window was open. I had forgotten to close it earlier. I went there, peering outside slowly, not sure what to expect, maybe just hoping to ease my mind. But then, I saw something. A dark human figure standing near a tree, looking at me with a bag that resembled the one Santa would use for his gifts. It was definitely the same man I saw earlier on the street. I wanted to scream, but my mouth went dry, and I felt paralyzed, unable to move. Then I saw the dark figure slowly walking towards my house, opening the main door and entering inside. Terrified, I collapsed near the window, shaking on the floor. Before my eyes closed, I noticed the room door was opening. A dark Santa entering my room with a large bag slung over his shoulder. He walked slowly across the room with heavy steps towards me. Before the darkness consumed all, the last thing I saw was a face without eyes, smiling down at me.